The following is an interview on NewsRadio 1620 with radio host Marty Stanovich interviewing Mort O'Sullivan on the Maritime Park.
NewsRadio 1620, Marty Stanovich back with you, and I'm joined on the line by Mort O'Sullivan of O'Sullivan Creel in downtown Pensacola. Mort, how are you?
Very well, Marty.
Good to have you on the program. Now, Mort, you, of course, are an unpaid advisor to the Community Maritime Park Associates Board, correct?
That's correct, Marty.
And we got word earlier today of something Quint Studer has done. And one of the big criticisms that a lot of the opponents of the park had said, Quint Studer has committed to this project. He's invested a lot of his own money, very altruistically in my mind, and has said, I'm going to see this through. And then, of course, one of the problems and the criticisms that came up says, well, what if something happens to Quint Studer? So I think Quint did something to kind of answer a lot of those questions today. Well, what is it that he's done?
Marty, throughout the process of the discussions with the city and when the contracts were being negotiated between the city and the Community Maritime Park Associates Board, early on there were some concerns about the size of Quint's commitments are clearly very notable and very generous, but what happens if Quint's not around, if he were to be taken in an untimely death and we're left with these things that he committed to, but he's gone. And so what was agreed was that a trust would be formed that would be the owner of life insurance that would be payable to the Community Maritime Park Associates for meeting any of the obligations that are outlined in the contracts should Quint have died at an early death. So what was done was the trust was created and established, reviewed by the city attorney for their comfort with that trust, and reviewed by the Community Maritime Park Associates Board, and that trust was executed. I am the trustee, and Quint is obligated under that trust to commit annual premiums that will purchase sufficient life insurance. We have just last week finished the purchase of $6 million of life insurance. The annual premiums on that will be contributed to the trust by Quint are about $64,000 a year. The amount of insurance relates to what Quint's obligations are. He has committed $2.25 million as a pledge to the Maritime Museum. As you know, they're attempting to raise $9 million to be matched by the state for an $18 million museum. Quint's pledge is $2.25 million. He pledged in perpetuity, as long as this team were here or controlled or he was associated, that the team would give all of its operating profits every year to the Community Maritime Park Board. In other words, he's essentially giving the team to the community. And when there was concern expressed for, well, what might that level of profit be, Quint stepped up and said that he would pledge a minimum of $250,000 a year for the first 5 years.
Okay, so that's another $1.25 million.
That's another obligation of his. And then finally, the Pelicans are obligated for 10 years, will be for 10 years under the lease for the multi-use facility, and that's $175,000 a year or $1,750,000 over 10 years. So when you add all those together, you're I think $5.25 million commitment by Quint on top of over $1.5 million, I think, that he's already committed in the development of this and already paid to get to where we are. But the remaining unpaid obligations are $5.25 million, and so we wanted a margin of safety, and we just selected $6 million of life insurance.
That is an amazing commitment to this community.
Yeah. Now, he will continue to pay those premiums every year, and as he meets his commitments, that insurance may be reduced, but it will always be in an amount in excess of any remaining unpaid commitment.
In best case scenario, obviously, we want Quint and Richie to live long, healthy, happy lives here in Pensacola. We get to the point where the Community Maritime Park is constructed, all of the commitments have been followed through on, and then essentially the purpose for this insurance would go away at that time.
And the trust provides that it goes out of existence once Quint's commitments have all been met.
Oh,
now,
fantastic.
if you think about it, in the next year or so is the payment of the $2.25 million toward the museum.
Right.
The next 5 years, there's the $250,000 a year commitment on team profits. but it's going to be 10 years before his commitments are over on the lease of the multi-use facility.
And none of this begins until there is a completion, well, with the exception of the commitment of the museum, which needs to be done up front because of the state matching dollars program. The remainder of the program, you're talking 5 years after the opening of the Community Maritime Park, and then, of course, the proceeds from the team lease, that's 10 years.
That's right. So the trust, we know, will be around for 10 years, but Quint's obligations will be diminishing over that time period, and where there's the opportunity for keeping the insurance coverage in excess of the remaining commitments, but he will not need to carry $6 million of insurance for 10 years. But that's what we need right now, and that's what he's funding.
Well, that's a fantastic commitment to this community, and I think Quint Studer's to be lauded for that. And I think it answers one of the, big questions, a lot of the naysayers of this park. And we as a station, our official position is we are supporters of the Community Maritime Park. I've spoken many times in support of it, and I'm really pleased to see Quint doing this. He's been very altruistic with the resources that he's been blessed with, and he's just continues to do a great job for us. So I hope you'll relay our thanks.
I sure will, Marty. It's exciting to watch this, and I know community has been patient. It's been over a year since the referendum, and in that time period, the board has been created. There's a very fine 12-member board that is in charge of this project now. They've been through a lot of due diligence. The design criteria team was hired. They're complete with their delivery of those criteria. They're now putting together a request for proposal to go out to the master developers. The master developers have been narrowed down to 4 potential candidates. That process is over the next 3 to 4 months. And then alongside that process, on a parallel track, the environmental permitting process has been ongoing now for some 9 months. And we hear good things on the environmental side, that they're generally favorably receiving the request for what the board is asking to do on that project. And we hope to hear in the next 3 to 4 months that the permits are in. So if all goes well, we look for potentially in the spring, late spring, some groundbreaking going on that will start with the site work and then followed by the structures coming out of the ground.
Well, Mort, it's exciting. It's going to be great. Can't wait to see something rise from the weeds down there on Main Street.
We need it.
We do need it. Pensacola
Marty,
does need this.
It's been good to watch, and one of the heartwarming things has been this was as everybody knows, a contentious process. That referendum, 56 to 44 result percentage-wise. But I've talked to folks since then who said I wasn't in favor of the project, but I trust the process. There are good people involved, and it's going to be good for the community. And some folks have swung over and said, let's get this done. So it's hopefully a unifying event and a great project for our community, and will foretell good things going forward.
Well, we're looking forward to it moving forward, and Pensacola moving forward right with it. So, Mort O'Sullivan, thank you so much for coming on to News Radio 1620 with that great update.
I appreciate it, Marty, and good talking.
Absolutely. We'll look forward to talking to you soon. Mort O'Sullivan here on News Radio 1620 at the Community Maritime Park is going to be one of the best things that ever happened to this town. This station is in support of it. This radio announcer is in support of it, and I hope you are too.